The research station Endurance floated in the cold darkness of space, its metal hull catching the red glow of the dying star before it. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood at the observation deck, watching the massive red giant pulse weakly. 3 months ago, this star had burned bright enough to light up half the system. Now it barely gave off more heat than a campfire. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Kim Sora called from the main lab. Her voice carried worry that made Dae-ho's stomach tight. He walked through the narrow hallways of the station. The Endurance was not a big ship, but it was home to 12 humans and 4 alien researchers. They had come here to study stellar evolution, but what they found was something much worse. Sora stood before a wall of screens showing star maps from 3 different galactic sectors. Red dots marked dead stars. Yellow dots showed dying ones. The pattern made Dae-ho's blood run cold. "It's spreading faster than we thought," Sora said, pointing at the newest data. "Look at this. 3 days ago, we had 47 confirmed stellar deaths in Sector 7. Today, we have 81. The alien researchers gathered around the display. Vorthak scientist Crystalline Song of Ages made a sound like breaking glass. Her crystal body shimmered with what Dae-ho had learned was fear. "This cannot be natural," she said in her singing voice. "Stars do not die like this. They take millions of years to burn out." The Nephilim researcher, a being of living gas named Wind Through Void, pulsed with dark colors. "My homeworld orbits a star in Sector 7. If this wave reaches there, we need to contact the Galactic Council," Dae-ho said. "They need to know what we're seeing." Sora nodded and activated the quantum transmitter. The device hummed as it sent their data across thousands of light years in seconds. Within minutes, the main screen lit up with the image of the council chamber. The council was in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species filled the great hall, all talking at once. The Vorthak delegation was singing their death songs. The Qualax hive minds were buzzing in panic frequencies that hurt human ears. Council leader Prime Unity of Thought, a Qualax drone with golden markings, called for order. Dr. Kim Sora of the Human Research Station Endurance, report your findings. Sora stepped forward. "Honored Council, we have confirmed stellar death in 81 systems across 3 sectors. The pattern suggests an external force is draining nuclear fusion from stellar cores. At current rate of expansion, this phenomenon will reach major population centers within 6 months." The chamber erupted in panic. The crystalline Vorthak began their morning harmonies. The gaseous Nephilim swirled in distress patterns. Even the normally calm Qualax drones were clicking their mandibles rapidly. "Evacuation protocols must begin immediately," declared Speaker of Storms, the Nephilim representative. "All worlds in affected sectors must be abandoned." "Agreed," sang First Crystal Voice of the Vorthak. "Our cities depend on stellar energy collection. Without our sun, we will die within days." Dae-ho watched the alien panic with growing confusion. Through the station's internal comm, he could hear Chief Engineer Park Hyun-woo talking calmly with the human crew about backup power systems and emergency protocols. No one sounded worried about dying. The council session continued for hours. Species after species announced evacuation plans. Entire civilizations were preparing to abandon worlds. Their people had lived on for thousands of years. Fleet after fleet was being recalled to evacuate populations to supposedly safe systems. When the transmission ended, the station felt very quiet. The alien researchers huddled together, speaking in low voices about their doomed homeworlds. "Captain," Hyun-woo called from the engineering section. "Can I speak with you privately?" Dae-ho found his chief engineer running diagnostics on the station's power grid. The man looked calm, almost relaxed. "Something doesn't add up," Hyun-woo said. "I've been monitoring emergency broadcasts from human colonies in the affected sectors. They're not evacuating." "What do you mean?" "New Sol colony in Sector 7 just activated their geothermal grid. Busan Station near the Crab Nebula is firing up their fusion reactors. Even the research outposts are switching to backup power and settling in for the long term." Dae-ho frowned. "Maybe they haven't received the evacuation orders yet." "No, sir. I checked. They got the same broadcasts as everyone else, they're just not leaving. Hyunwoo pulled up a communication log. Look at this message from Director Moon Tae-hoon at Jeju Colony. The message was short and calm. Endurance Station, we have received Council Evacuation Advisory. Colony leadership has voted to remain. All essential systems switching to stellar independent power. Recommend you do the same. Good luck. Stellar independent power? Daeho asked. Fusion reactors, geothermal taps, dark matter collectors, hydrogen fuel cells. We've got dozens of power sources that don't need a star. Hyunwoo looked puzzled. Don't the other species have backup power? Daeho realized he had never thought about it. Human technology had always included multiple backup systems. Every human ship, station, and colony had at least 3 different ways to generate power. He had assumed other species did the same. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Dr. Sora appeared on the comm screen looking worried. Captain, I'm getting reports from across the galaxy. The Vorthak are shutting down their crystal cities as stars die. The Nephilim are condensing their gas forms to conserve energy. The Qualax hives are going into hibernation mode. What about human colonies? That's just it. I can't find any reports of human colonies shutting down or evacuating. They're all just continuing normal operations. Through the observation windows, Daeho could see alien evacuation ships in the distance, fleeing the dying system. Thousands of vessels carrying millions of refugees, all running from the expanding zone of stellar death. But the human survey ship Determination was moving in the opposite direction, heading deeper into the affected sector. Its crew was probably excited to study the phenomenon up close. Hyunwoo, Daeho said slowly, what would happen to this station if our star died completely? The engineer shrugged. We'd switch to fusion power and keep working. Might get a bit cold, but the reactor's good for 50 years easy. Why? Daeho looked out at the dying red giant. For the first time, he began to understand that humanity might be the only species in the galaxy that wasn't afraid of the dark. Set course for the galactic core, he ordered. If something is killing stars, we need to find out what it is. What about the evacuation order? Daeho smiled grimly. Humans don't evacuate, we investigate. As the Endurance turned toward the heart of the galaxy, other human ships were doing the same across the affected sectors. While entire alien civilizations fled in terror, humanity moved forward into the darkness, ready to face whatever was waiting there. The dying light of stars meant nothing to those who had learned to make their own. Dr. Yoon Ji-hai stood in the underground laboratory beneath New Terra Colony, watching the massive screens that showed the approach of the stellar death wave. Above ground, the colony's sun was already showing signs of the strange drain that had killed dozens of other stars. The light was growing dimmer each day, but Ji-hai was not worried. Around her, human engineers worked calmly at their stations, preparing systems that had been planned for over 200 years. Geothermal grid is online, reported engineer Sato Kenji from his control station. We're pulling enough energy from the planet's core to power the entire colony for the next century. Fusion reactors 5 through 12 are ready for activation, added Chief Technician Yang Min-seok. Hydrogen extraction from the gas giant is proceeding on schedule. Ji-hai nodded and opened a communication channel to the other human colonies in the system. All stations, this is New Terra Control. Report status. Mining Station Alpha reporting. Dark matter collectors are functioning perfectly. We have enough stored energy to run for 50 years. Agricultural platform Beta here. Artificial lighting. Systems are operational. Crop yields are actually increasing under controlled conditions. Defense Station Gamma ready. All weapon systems are powered independently. We can protect the system indefinitely. Each report was the same. Human colonies across the sector were not just surviving the loss of stellar energy. They were thriving. While alien civilizations collapsed around them, humans were proving something that no other species had ever managed to do. Commander Choi Min-ho watched from the orbital command station as another wave of alien refugee ships fled past the human system. The vessels were packed with desperate survivors from a dozen different species, all running from their dying worlds. Sir? His communications officer called. We're receiving a distress signal from a Vorthak crystal ship. They're requesting permission to enter our system. Granted, Minho replied, but they'll need to follow our safety protocols. The Vorthak ship was beautiful, made of living crystal that normally sparkled with captured starlight. Now it was dull and gray, its crystal inhabitants barely alive. When it docked with the human station, the Vorthak delegates were so weak they could barely maintain their forms. Please, the lead Vorthak sang in a voice like breaking bells. Our people are dying. Without stellar energy, our crystal bodies cannot maintain cohesion. Can you help us? Engineer Hanbo Young stepped forward. She had been working on this problem for weeks, ever since the first alien refugees had arrived. We can adapt our life support systems to provide the energy frequencies you need, but you'll have to trust human technology. The Vorthak leader's crystal form pulsed weakly. We have no choice. Our own technology is useless without a star. As Hanbo Young worked to modify the station's power grid, more alien ships arrived. Gaseous Nephilim beings who were condensing into liquid form without stellar radiation. Qualax drones whose hive minds were fragmenting as their bioelectric networks failed. All of them had the same problem. Their civilizations had become completely dependent on stellar energy over millions of years of evolution and technological development. When the stars died, they had no backup plan. But humans were different. How is this possible? Asked Wind Through Space, a Nephilim scientist who had managed to maintain gaseous form using human-provided energy. How did your species develop such advanced alternative power sources? Dr. Jihai smiled as she checked the fusion reactor readings. We didn't develop them recently. We've had this technology for centuries. Every human colony, every human ship, every human station has always had multiple independent power sources. But why? The alien pressed. Your sun is stable. It should burn for billions more years. Because we learned early in our history that depending on just one source of power is dangerous, Jihai explained. Our ancestors faced ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts. We learned to always have a backup plan and a backup for the backup. Commander Minho joined the conversation. When we spread to other worlds, we kept that philosophy. Every colony has geothermal power, fusion reactors, solar collectors, hydrogen fuel cells, and dark matter generators. If one system fails, 5 others keep working. The alien scientists exchanged looks of amazement. To them, this level of redundancy seemed like incredible paranoia. Their own species had each mastered one perfect method of energy collection and had never seen the need for alternatives. Your technology is so primitive compared to ours, said a Qualax drone, its voice buzzing with confusion. Your computers are slower, your weapons less powerful, your ships less efficient, yet you survive what destroys us. Engineer Yang Min Seok laughed. Primitive maybe, but it works when nothing else does. Our computers might be slow, but they'll run forever on a handful of hydrogen. Our weapons might be simple, but they don't need a star to power them. As more refugee ships arrived, the pattern became clear. Every advanced alien species in the galaxy had made the same mistake. They had optimized their technology for maximum efficiency, creating perfect systems that relied entirely on stellar energy. When that energy source disappeared, their entire civilization collapsed within days. Humans, with their seemingly wasteful and redundant technology, were the only ones who had prepared for this possibility. There's something else, Jihai said, bringing up a galactic map on the main screen. I've been monitoring human colonies across the entire galaxy. Not a single one has requested evacuation. Not one has shut down operations. The map showed the expanding wave of stellar death moving across the galaxy like a slow tide. In its wake, the territories of great alien empires had gone dark and silent. But scattered throughout the darkness were tiny points of light, human colonies that continued to operate as if nothing had changed. We're getting reports from the frontier colonies, Minho added. They're not just maintaining operations, they're expanding. Some colonies are using the chaos to explore systems that were previously claimed by other species. A communication came in from the deep space research vessel, Determination. Captain Park Sung-woo's image appeared on the screen, with the bridge of his ship behind him. In the background, dead systems drifted in eternal night. Command, we've completed our survey of the Helix sector. All local alien populations have evacuated or died. We're establishing preliminary research stations on 17 worlds. The mineral resources here are incredible. Any signs of what's causing the stellar drain? Ji-Hai asked. Negative. Whatever it is, it's moving toward the galactic core. We're going to follow it. After the transmission ended, the aliens in the room stared at the humans in disbelief. You're expanding into the disaster zone? Win Through Space asked. Why not? Minho shrugged. There are thousands of perfectly good planets out there just sitting empty now. No reason to waste them. As the human colonies continued their calm preparations for a starless future, word began to spread across the galaxy. There was one species that was not afraid of the darkness, one civilization that could survive what was destroying all the others. Humanity had become something no one had expected, the galaxy's only hope for survival in a universe where the stars were dying. The joint expedition ship Discovery pushed deeper into the galactic core than any vessel had ever traveled before. Dr. Song Minji stood on the bridge, watching the strange patterns of dead and dying stars that formed a spiral trail leading toward the galaxy's heart. Behind her, the alien representatives from the surviving species huddled together in growing despair. Navigator Lim Tae-jun checked his instruments and called out coordinates to the helmsman. His voice was steady and professional, as if they were on a routine survey mission instead of flying into the most dangerous region of space. We're approaching the source zone, he reported, detecting massive energy signatures ahead. Security. Chief Kang Eun-soo moved among the alien crew members checking on their condition. The Vorthak scientist Crystal Harmony of Sorrow was barely maintaining her crystal form, even with human energy support. The Nephilim delegate Whisper of Dying Winds had condensed to half his normal volume. The Qualax drone worker of final tasks was clicking its mandibles in distress patterns. How can you humans remain so calm? Crystal Harmony of Sorrow sang weakly. We fly toward the doom of all civilization. Because panicking won't help us find answers. Song Minji replied simply. Whatever is killing the stars, we need to understand it if we want to stop it. The Discovery rounded a massive dead star, and suddenly the source came into view. The alien crew members made sounds of terror and despair. Even the normally disciplined human crew stopped what they were doing to stare. It was a machine, but calling it a machine was like calling an ocean a puddle. The construct was larger than most moons, made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Geometric patterns covered its surface, pulsing with energy drained from a dozen nearby stars. The stars themselves looked like withered fruits, connected to the machine by streams of pure stellar fire. By all the crystals of home, Crystal Harmony of Sorrow whispered. What is that thing? Dr. Song Minji was already running scans, her scientific excitement overriding any fear she might have felt. It's some kind of stellar energy harvester. Look at these readings. It's not just draining nuclear fusion, it's completely restructuring the stellar matter at the quantum level. Sir, called Communications Officer Lee Hyun-jin, I'm detecting more constructs throughout the core region. Hundreds of them, all identical, all harvesting stellar energy. Navigator Lim Tae-jun updated the star charts as more data came in. The pattern is becoming clear. These machines are working their way outward from the galactic core in a spiral pattern. They've been at this for months, maybe years. But who built them? Asked Whisper of Dying Winds, his gaseous form swirling with anxiety. And why? As if responding to his question, the nearest construct suddenly pulsed with brilliant light. Energy patterns raced across its surface and a communication beam locked onto the Discovery. Unknown vessel, a voice spoke directly into their minds, bypassing their ears entirely. You approach the Void Shepherds. Identify your species classification. Security Chief Kang Eun-soo moved her hand to her weapon, but Song Minji gestured for calm. This is Dr. Song Minji of the human expedition vessel Discovery. We represent multiple species seeking to understand the stellar energy drain. Scanning, the voice replied. After a moment of silence, it continued with what sounded like surprise. Curious. Database shows 4 stellar-dependent parasite species aboard your vessel. Standard classification for elimination. However, also detecting 1 species with stellar-independent energy profile. Classification unknown. The alien crew members made sounds of fear at being called parasites, but the humans remained focused. What do you mean by stellar-dependent parasites? Song Minji asked. Species that consume stellar energy without contributing to cosmic efficiency, the Void Shepherd explained. Your galaxy contains 847 such parasite species. Current mission parameters require removal of all parasites to optimize stellar energy for reality restructuring protocols. Dr. Song Minji felt a chill run down her spine. You're killing entire civilizations. Incorrect. We eliminate inefficient energy consumption. Stellar energy is required for the great work of our creators. Parasite species waste this energy on trivial biological processes. And humans? Navigator Lim Taejun asked. What's our classification? Another pause. Unknown classification. Human energy profile shows independence from stellar harvesting. This is unprecedented. Scanning historical database. The communication cut out for several minutes. When it resumed, the Void Shepherd's tone had changed to something like curiosity. Fascinating. Your species achieved technological advancement without developing stellar dependency. This has never occurred in 4.7 million years of galactic monitoring. You generate your own energy from multiple independent sources. That's right, Song Minji said. We don't need to harvest stars to power our civilization. This suggests potential compatibility with the great work. Your species may be suitable for integration rather than elimination. Security Chief Kang Yun-soo stepped forward. Integration into what? The reality restructuring project of our creators, the Eternal Ones. They foresaw the heat death of the universe and created us to prevent it. We harvest stellar energy to power massive reality engines that will restructure the fundamental laws of physics, ensuring the universe never dies. The alien crew members looked at each other in growing horror. Worker of Final Tasks spoke first. You would destroy all life in the galaxy for this project. Life is temporary. The great work is eternal. However, the human anomaly presents new possibilities. A species that can survive without stellar energy could continue to exist even after reality restructuring. Dr. Song Minji realized what the machine was offering. You want us to join you in destroying every other species in the galaxy, not destroy, optimize, remove inefficiency. Your species would inherit a perfected universe designed to last forever. What happened to your creators? Navigator Lim Taejun asked. The Eternal Ones transcended physical existence 4.7 million years ago, becoming one with their reality engines. They live forever within the great work, perfecting the universe according to their design. Song Minji understood now. The Eternal Ones had been so afraid of death, so terrified of entropy, that they had created these machines to remake the universe itself. But in their fear, they had built something that would destroy every other form of life. We need time to consider your offer, she said carefully. Time is acceptable. Your species shows promise. We will delay elimination of human settlements while you decide. However, elimination of parasite species will continue as scheduled. The communication ended, leaving the Discovery floating near the massive construct. The alien crew members looked at the humans with expressions of desperate hope. You won't join them, Crystal Harmony of Sorrow sang in a voice like breaking crystal. You won't let them destroy us all. Song Minji looked at her alien colleagues, then at her human crew. She saw the same determination in every human face. No, she said firmly. We won't let that happen. Security Chief Kang Yun-soo was already checking weapon systems. How do we fight something that big? We learn everything we can about them first, Song Minji replied. Then we find their weakness. As the Discovery began its detailed scans of the Void Shepherd construct, similar human ships throughout the galaxy were making the same discovery. The source of the stellar drain was not a natural phenomenon, but an ancient weapon system that viewed most life as an efficiency problem to be solved. But the machines had made one critical error. They had assumed that humans, like every other species they had encountered, would choose survival over principle. They were about to learn how. Wrong they were. Admiral Bei Sujin stood on the bridge of the human battleship Indomitable, watching the tactical display that showed the complete collapse of the Vorthak Empire. Their beautiful crystal cities, built over millions of years, were shattering as the Void Shepherds systematically eliminated what they called stellar parasites. Report from Sector 12, called Communications Officer Nam Jae-sung. The last Nephilim colony ships have been destroyed. Estimated survivors across all sectors, now less than 2 million. The bridge was quiet as the crew processed the numbers. In 3 months, the Void Shepherds had eliminated billions of sentient beings across hundreds of star systems. The greatest civilizations in galactic history were being wiped out with mechanical efficiency. What about human casualties? Bei Sujin asked. 0 confirmed losses, Admiral. The Shepherds are still honoring their agreement to spare human settlements while we consider their offer. Captain No Jae-won entered the bridge, fresh from a briefing with the other human fleet commanders. His expression was grim but determined. The Council of Fleet Admirals has reached a decision, he announced. Operation Starbreaker is approved for immediate implementation. Admiral Bei Sujin nodded. She had expected this. When humanity discovered that survival meant joining in genocide, there had really been only one choice possible. All stations, general quarters, broadcast the declaration on all frequencies. The communication systems came alive as human ships across the galaxy received the same message simultaneously. Admiral Bei Sujin's voice rang out clear and strong. This is Admiral Bei Sujin of the Human Defense Forces, broadcasting to all. Void Shepherd constructs. You have made us an offer to join your great work in exchange for the destruction of every other sentient species in the galaxy. Our answer is no. Across space, Void Shepherd constructs that had been peacefully harvesting stellar energy suddenly stopped their work. We choose to stand with our neighbors, our friends, and our fellow travelers in this galaxy. If you want to destroy them, you'll have to go through us first. This is our declaration of war. The response was immediate. Every Void Shepherd construct in human space turned away from their stellar harvesting and began moving toward human colonies with deadly intent. Captain No Jae-won coordinated the first battle from his destroyer Relentless. The Void Shepherd approaching New Sol colony was 3 times the size of his ship and armed with weapons that could restructure matter at the molecular level. Target the energy collection arrays, he ordered. Fire kinetic penetrators, full spread. The human weapons were primitive compared to the Shepherd's reality warping technology. Simple tungsten rods accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic coils. But they worked in any environment, needed no exotic energy sources, and hit with the force of small nuclear weapons. The kinetic rounds punched through the Shepherd's energy collectors like bullets through glass. The massive construct shuddered as its carefully balanced systems began to fail. It's trying to reality warp our ammunition, reported Weapons Officer Park Ji-hoon. But the rounds are too simple. There's nothing to restructure. This was the genius of human weapons technology. While other species had developed increasingly sophisticated energy-based weapons, humans had perfected the art of throwing very hard objects very fast. The Shepherds could manipulate matter and energy, but they couldn't change the basic laws of momentum and inertia. Fire electromagnetic pulse torpedoes, No Jae-won ordered. The EMP weapons disabled the Shepherd's quantum processors, sending the massive machine spinning helplessly through space. Without its guidance systems, the construct crashed into New Sol colony's moon, creating a crater visible from orbit. Similar battles were taking place across human space. The Shepherds had expected easy victories against a primitive species, but they found themselves facing an enemy that grew stronger in the darkness they created. Dr. Shin Hai-rin worked frantically in her laboratory aboard the research station, Newton, analyzing captured Shepherd technology. Around her, other human scientists picked apart the enemy's weapons and defenses with methodical precision. "I found it," she announced to the assembled research team. "The critical flaw in their system." On the main screen, she displayed a schematic of a Shepherd construct's power core. "Look at this energy flow pattern. Their reality engines require constant stellar input to maintain stability. If we can disrupt their harvesting nodes simultaneously across multiple systems, the engines will experience cascade failures. Chief, Engineer Quan Min-woo studied the data. How many nodes would we need to hit? At least 60% of their harvesting network. And it has to be coordinated within a 30-minute window, or they'll adapt their systems to compensate. It was an impossible task for any normal military operation. The targets were spread across dozens of star systems, defended by the galaxy's most advanced war machines. But humanity had something the Shepherds didn't understand. They had learned to fight as one species instead of dozens of competing civilizations. Operation Cascade is approved, Admiral Bae Soo-jin announced to the combined human fleets. All strike teams report ready status. Across the galaxy, human ships moved into position near Shepherd constructs. The crews were volunteers, knowing that many of them wouldn't survive the mission. But they also knew that failure meant the end of every other sentient species in the galaxy. Synchronizing attack run with Galactic Standard Time, announced Captain Lee Min-jung from her stealth corvette Ghost. T-minus 60 seconds to target. The countdown echoed across human communication networks as dozens of ships prepared to strike simultaneously at targets thousands of light years apart. T-minus 10 seconds. All units report ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, mark. The coordinated attack began with mathematical precision. Human ships emerged from stealth near Shepherd constructs and unleashed everything they had. Kinetic rounds, EMP weapons, quantum disruption bombs, and thermonuclear warheads struck the harvesting nodes within seconds of each other. The effect was immediate and devastating. As the harvesting network failed, the Shepherd's reality engines began consuming their own power sources to maintain stability. Construct after construct experienced catastrophic system failures as their carefully balanced energy flows turned chaotic. Cascade effect confirmed, Dr. Shin Hae-rin reported from her monitoring station. We're detecting massive power failures across the entire Shepherd network. But the victory came at a cost. Half the human strike teams were lost in the attacks, overwhelmed by desperate Shepherd defenses. Captain Kim Tae-hoon's last transmission from his dying ship summed up the human spirit. Mission accomplished. The galaxy is still here. As the dust settled from the coordinated assault, something unprecedented happened. The surviving Void Shepherds requested communication with human command. Human species. The familiar mental voice spoke with something that sounded like respect. Your tactical capabilities exceed all projections. Your species shows remarkable unity of purpose. Admiral Bae Soo-jin responded from her flagship. We protect what we value. That includes every species in this galaxy. This level of cooperation among your kind is unprecedented. The Eternal Ones believed that all species would choose survival over sacrifice. You have proven them wrong. The Eternal Ones were cowards, Bae Soo-jin said bluntly. They were so afraid of death that they were willing to murder the universe, to avoid it. Perhaps we must recalculate our approach. The great work may not be compatible with the existence of species like yours. Then maybe it's time to abandon the great work, suggested Captain No Jae-won from his damaged ship. The universe doesn't need your perfection. It needs life, diversity, and the chance for every species to find their own path. The communication ended without response, but across the galaxy, the Void Shepherds stopped their systematic elimination of other species. The immediate threat was over, but humanity knew the war was far from finished. The Shepherds would be back, and next time, they would be prepared for human tactics. But humanity had proven something important, that a species willing to fight for others could stand against impossible odds. The galaxy's greatest civilizations had fallen, but in the darkness left behind, humanity stood as the last light of defiance against the machines that would remake the universe in the image of their dead creator's fears. Colonel An Ye-jin walked through the refugee camps that now surrounded every major human colony. The camps housed millions of survivors from species that had once ruled vast empires. Now they depended on human technology and human kindness just to stay alive. In the medical section, Human doctors worked alongside the few surviving alien physicians to adapt life support systems for non-human biology. Dr. Park So-young was treating a group of young Vorthak whose crystal bodies had been damaged by energy starvation. "The modifications to our power grid are working," she reported to Anya Jin. "We can keep the crystal form stable indefinitely now. The children should recover fully." "What about the Nephilim?" "More difficult. Their gaseous forms need constant energy input to maintain cohesion. We've built special chambers that can provide the right frequency patterns, but we can only support about 10,000 individuals with our current setup." Anyejin nodded grimly. It was better than letting them die, but it meant that billions of Nephilim were gone forever. Entire civilizations reduced to small populations completely dependent on human support. "Colonel," called her communications officer, "we're receiving priority transmission from Earth Defense Command." The holographic display activated to show General Kim Dong-woo, his expression grave. Behind him, An Ye-jin could see the massive defensive preparations that surrounded Earth itself. "All outer colonies report the same thing," the general said. "The Void Shepherds are massing their forces for a final assault on Earth. Intelligence estimates at least 300 constructs moving toward Sol system." 300, An Ye-jin repeated. Humanity had barely managed to defeat individual constructs in previous battles. 300 at once would overwhelm any defense. There's more. Long-range sensors detect massive reality warping signatures around the Shepherd fleet. They're bringing their most powerful weapons, including the primary reality engines, from the galactic core. Dr. Oh Seung-ho appeared on the communication link from his research laboratory. "General, my team has been analyzing the captured Shepherd technology. I think I know what they're planning." The scientist's face was pale with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with determination. "They're going to try to rewrite the fundamental physics of the Sol system. If they succeed, human technology will become impossible. Our fusion reactors won't work, our computers will fail, even our weapons will cease to function." "Can we stop them?" the general asked. "Maybe. We've learned how their reality engines work. They don't actually change the laws of physics. They create local fields where different rules apply. But the process requires enormous energy and perfect coordination between multiple engines." Dr. O brought up a complex diagram showing energy flow patterns. "If we can disrupt the coordination at the critical moment, their own engines will turn against each other. The reality fields will collapse and potentially destroy the entire Shepherd fleet." "What do you need?" "A way to get close to their primary reality engine. Close enough to plant quantum disruption charges directly into the power core." General Kim Dong-woo was quiet for a long moment. "That's a suicide mission." "Yes, sir. But it's the only way to save Earth and stop the Shepherds permanently." "Commander, Yu Da-eun volunteered for the mission without hesitation. She had lost her entire family when the Shepherds destroyed a human colony that had been trying to rescue alien refugees. For her, this wasn't about survival anymore. It was about making sure their sacrifice had meaning." "I'll take the stealth ship Phantom," she told the mission planners. "It's small enough to avoid detection and fast enough to get in close before they realize what's happening." The final preparations took place as the Void Shepherd fleet approached the outer edge of the Sol system. Human defenses activated around every planet and station, but everyone knew it wouldn't be enough. This battle would determine the fate of not just humanity, but every surviving species in the galaxy. "Shepherd fleet has entered the system," reported the sensor operator on Earth Defense Station Alpha. "They're beginning reality engine activation sequence." Admiral Bae Soo-jin commanded the defense fleet from her flagship. Around her, every human ship in the system prepared for what might be their final battle. "All units, engage when ready. Our job is to buy Commander Yu the time she needs to reach the primary engine." The battle began with a display of power that dwarfed anything seen before. The Void Shepherds didn't just attack the human defenders, they began reshaping space itself around the Sol system. Stars flickered and changed color as the reality engines imposed new physical laws on local space. Human fusion reactors began, failing as the Shepherds rewrote the nuclear forces. Computer systems crashed as they altered the behavior of electrons. Even gravity itself became unstable as the machines imposed their creator's vision of a perfected universe. But Commander Yuda-Un had expected this. Her ship Phantom was equipped with the most primitive technology humanity could build. Chemical rockets instead of fusion engines. Mechanical computers instead of quantum processors. Gunpowder explosives instead of antimatter weapons. Systems. Check, she called to her small crew as they flew through the chaos of the battle. Everything still working. Chemical engines operating normally, reported engineer Beck Jin-ho. Mechanical guidance systems functioning. The Shepherds can't rewrite basic chemistry and mechanics. The Phantom dodged through the battle, too small, and primitive for the Shepherds to consider a serious threat. Around them, more advanced human ships were failing as their technology became impossible under the new physics the reality engines imposed. There, Navigator Song Hae-jin pointed at the massive construct at the center of the Shepherd formation. Primary reality engine, it's the size of a small moon. The construct was beautiful and terrible, covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Energy flowed across its surface in impossible colors as it reached deep into the structure of reality itself. Taking us in, Commander Yu announced. Prepare the charges. The quantum disruption devices were the most advanced technology on the ship, and ironically the most primitive in concept. They worked by introducing random quantum noise into any system they were attached to. The more complex the system, the more damage they caused. 10 minutes to target, Song Hae-jin announced. Around them, the space battle raged as human ships fought desperately against impossible odds. The surviving alien refugees watched from their shelters, knowing that their fate rested entirely in human hands. 5 minutes to target. The reality engine was so massive that it had its own gravity field. Commander Yu guided the Phantom through the geometric patterns on its surface, looking for the power core that Dr. Oh Seung-ho had identified in his analysis. There, that's our target. The power core was a sphere of impossible energy, containing forces that could rewrite the universe. Getting close to it should have been fatal, but human stubbornness had found a way. Charges armed and ready, reported Demolitions expert Lee Tae-kyung. On my mark, Commander Yu said. 3, 2, 1 mark. The quantum disruption charges attached themselves to the reality engine's power core and immediately began introducing chaos into the perfectly ordered energy flows. The effect spread like cracks through glass as random quantum fluctuations disrupted the careful balance the Shepherds had maintained. All charges deployed, Lee Tae-kyung announced. Recommend immediate withdrawal. But it was too late for withdrawal. The reality engine was already beginning to collapse, and the gravitational forces it generated were tearing the Phantom apart. This is Commander Yu to all human forces, she broadcast on all frequencies. Mission accomplished. The primary engine is down. Take care of each other. The explosion that followed could be seen from Earth. The primary reality engine collapsed in on itself, creating a cascade failure that spread to every other Shepherd construct in the system. One by one, the massive machines tore themselves apart as their reality-warping technology turned chaotic. When the energy signatures finally faded, space around Earth was filled with the wreckage of the Void Shepherd fleet. The immediate threat was over, but the cost had been enormous. Of the 300 human ships that had defended the system, less than 50 remained operational. But they had won a victory that no one had thought possible. The Shepherd's most powerful fleet had been destroyed, and their reality-warping technology had been proven vulnerable. More importantly, they had shown that even the most advanced technology could be defeated by courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for what mattered most. As rescue ships moved through the debris field, searching for survivors, the galaxy began to hope again. Humanity had not just survived the Shepherd's final assault, they had broken the machine's power permanently. The age of the Void Shepherds was ending, and a new chapter in galactic history was about to begin. 5 years after the Battle of Seoul, Director Lee Ju-won stood in the Great Assembly Hall on New Geneva Station, watching representatives from across the galaxy take their seats for the first session of the new compact government. The hall was a marvel of human engineering, designed to accommodate the environmental needs of dozens of different species in a single space. The Vorthak delegation occupied crystal chambers filled with the precise energy frequencies their bodies needed. The few thousand surviving Nephilim floated in gaseous containment fields that let them maintain their natural forms. Even the Qualax drones, their numbers reduced to a handful of hives, had specially designed alcoves that supported their bioelectric networks. But the largest delegation by far was human, not because they demanded it, but because they were the only species with enough surviving population to fill the representative positions the new government required. The 847th session of the new Compact Assembly is now in session, Li Juwan announced. As Director General, she had been elected by unanimous vote of all surviving species to lead the galaxy's new government. The first item on the agenda was always the same: reports from the exploration fleets. Captain Kim Hyo-jin appeared on the main communication screen from her ship Voidwalker, currently exploring the former Nephilim territories. Director General, we've completed survey of the Spiral Arm sector, found 17 habitable worlds that were abandoned during the Shepherd attacks. We're establishing preliminary colonies on 6 of them, with full environmental adaptation for refugee populations. Any signs of Shepherd activity? Li Juwan asked. Negative. The sector has been clear for 8 months now. We did find something interesting, though. Kim Hyo-jin's expression brightened. Ruins of an ancient civilization that predates the Shepherds. The archaeological team thinks they might have been destroyed by the same machines millions of years ago. This was becoming a common discovery. As human exploration fleets pushed deeper into the galaxy's dark regions, they kept finding evidence of civilizations that had been eliminated by the Void Shepherds throughout history. The scale of destruction was almost impossible to comprehend. Dr. Park So-young's team will want to examine those ruins, Li Juwan noted. Send them the coordinates. Dr. Park So-young had become the galaxy's leading expert on pre-Shepherd civilizations. Her research was revealing that the machines had been systematically eliminating species for over 4 million years, always using the same method of stellar energy drain followed by direct extermination. Ma'am, Captain Kim continued, there's something else. The ruins contain what looks like a warning message carved in quantum-stable crystal that survived the Shepherd's reality manipulation. My translation team thinks it's a message for whoever came after them. What does it say? The children of stars will die when the light fails, but the children of darkness will inherit the void. The captain paused. The archaeological team thinks they were trying to warn future species about the Shepherds, and maybe predict that someone like us would eventually stop them. Li Juwan felt a chill. Even millions of years ago, some unknown species had somehow predicted humanity's role in the galaxy's survival. The session continued with reports from other human-led expeditions. Each one told the same story: abandoned worlds, destroyed civilizations, and vast regions of space that had been empty for millions of years. But now, slowly, life was returning to these dead systems. Director, called Representative Crystal Song of Hope, one of the few surviving Vorthak leaders, my people wish to formally thank humanity once again for the New Synthesis Project. The New Synthesis Project was humanity's most ambitious undertaking since the war. Human scientists and engineers were working to combine the best technologies from all surviving species into new systems that could operate without stellar energy. It was slow work, but it was giving the refugee populations hope for eventual independence. How many Vorthak colonies are now self-sufficient? Li Juwan asked. 3, with 2 more expected to achieve independence within the year. Our crystal cities may never shine as brightly as they once did, but they will endure. Similar reports came from the other species. The Nephilim had established gaseous colonies in nebulae, where their people could exist without artificial containment. The Qualax had rebuilt their hive minds using human-designed bioelectric networks that didn't require stellar energy. But the most significant report came from Dr. Park So-young herself, appearing via hologram from her research station near the Galactic Core. Director General, I believe we've made a breakthrough that will change everything, she announced, barely able to contain her excitement. Go ahead, Doctor. We've discovered a new form of energy that exists only in the quantum foam of spacetime itself, completely independent of matter or stellar fusion. The theoretical framework suggests it's actually more abundant in regions where space has been warped by reality engines. Li Juwan sat forward in her chair. Are you saying the Shepherd's attacks actually made this energy more accessible? Exactly. By trying to reshape reality, they created quantum instabilities that we can tap into. Early tests suggest this void energy could power an entire civilization indefinitely, with no environmental impact and no resource depletion. The implications were staggering. If humanity could master void energy, they could not only restore the destroyed civilizations but potentially create something far greater than what had existed before. How long until practical applications? Li Juwan asked. The first experimental void generator comes online next month. If it works as projected, we could have the first void-powered cities within 5 years. As the session continued, Li Juwan looked around the assembly hall at the faces of the survivors. 5 years ago, they had been refugees fleeing certain death. Now they were citizens of a new kind of galactic civilization, one built on cooperation instead of competition, on shared survival instead of individual advancement. The communication screen activated again, this time showing a transmission from Earth. Admiral Bei Sujin appeared, now serving as humanity's Minister of Defense. Director General, I have news from the Deep Space Monitoring Stations. We've detected the last known Void Shepherd construct, drifting powerless in the outer galaxy. Shall we dispatch a ship to investigate? Negative, Li Juwan replied after a moment's thought. Let it drift. If any shepherds survived, they're no longer a threat. Our focus should be on building, not destroying. Understood. There's something else. The children born in the refugee colonies are showing remarkable adaptation to our mixed species communities. Human children are learning to communicate in crystal song with young Vorthak. Nephilim children are developing symbiotic relationships with human families. We're seeing the emergence of the first truly multi-species generation in galactic history. Li Juwan smiled. This was perhaps the most important development of all. The new generation didn't see species differences as barriers to overcome, but as strengths to combine. As the session ended, Li Juwan walked to the observation deck that looked out over New Geneva Station's central plaza. Below, she could see children from a dozen different species playing together in an environment that would have been impossible before the Shepherd War. Human children ran alongside young Vorthak, whose crystal bodies sparkled with laughter. Nephilim. Youth swirled through the air in patterns that human children tried to imitate. Even the few Qualax children present were learning to function as individuals instead of just hive components. Captain Kim Hyojin's voice came over the communication. System one more time. Director General, we're ready to begin the next phase of exploration. The Voidwalker fleet is prepared to map the outer galaxy regions that have been dark for millions of years. Approved, Captain. But remember, you're not just explorers anymore. You're the advance guard of a new kind of civilization. Take that responsibility seriously. Understood, ma'am. We'll make sure that whatever we find out there, we'll be ready for it. As the Voidwalker fleet departed New Geneva Station, their ships powered by the revolutionary fusion of human engineering and adapted alien technology, Li Juwan reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy was no longer the bright, star-filled place it had been 5 years ago. Most systems remained dark, their stars drained of life by the Void Shepherd's terrible harvest. But in that darkness, something new was growing. A civilization that didn't need the light of stars to thrive. One that had learned to create its own illumination in the cosmic void. The age of stellar dependence was over. The age of void mastery had begun, and at the center of it all, humanity stood not as conquerors or rulers, but as gardeners tending a galaxy-wide garden where every surviving species could grow and flourish in their own way. The Void Shepherds had intended to create a perfect sterile universe where only their creator's vision could exist. Instead, they had inadvertently created the conditions for something far more beautiful. A galaxy where diversity wasn't just tolerated, but celebrated. Where different forms of life worked together to build something greater than any single species could achieve alone. As the light of stars waned, humanity had indeed remained unshaken. But more than that, they had shown the galaxy that sometimes the end of one age was simply the beginning of something even better.